according to the Bible as of a people. Because if I was to ask everybody in here their nationality, because every nation has a nationality, right? Everyone has an ethnic background. So if I was to ask everyone in here their nationality, 9 times out of 10, most quote unquote black people, they would say, well, I'm African American, I'm black, I'm Negro. You know, we give things like that. But that's not the truth according to the scriptures. So this is why you see this chart right here. This is called the 12 tribes of Israel chart. Now this chart right here is pointing out who the 12 tribes are today. So right here, because I'm going to get into the scriptures too. But this chart right here, these are the 12, these will be the 12 tribes of Israel today in modern times. Like the African Americans, what we'll call African Americans, but according to the Bible, we were called Jews or Judites. This is who we are. But we have forgotten our history along the time. So in the Bible, you got West Indian Negroes, which are basically known as Jamaicans. The Jamaicans in the Bible, back a long time ago, nobody was saying Jamaican in the Bible. They were saying Benjamites. Nobody was saying Negro, black people in the Bible. They were saying Judites. No one was saying Haitians in the Bible. They were saying Levites. So Moses was a Levite. His brother was a Levite. So Moses today, if he was still living, he would be a modern day Haitian. That's what he would be. See, this information has been lost down the line. And the government, don't look for the government to tell you anything, because if anything, the last thing the government is going to do is tell you the truth. They're not going to tell you the truth because they don't want you to know your nationality. They want to keep you in darkness. So anyways, let's keep on going. According to the Bible, the Dominican Republic, the Dominicans would be known as Simeon. Guatemala to the Panamanian Canal, they would be known as Zebulun. Puerto Ricans today, or Puerto Rico, they would be known as Ephraim. You see right here, Cubans, they would be known as Manasseh. Native American Indians, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Blackfoot, all these Indians, they would be known as the tribe of Gad in the Bible. The Reubenites, which is the Seminole Indians down in the Everglades of Florida. That's why you got a team in Florida called Florida Seminoles. The Seminole Indians of today would be what you would call Reubenites, Reuben. And then as you see also Argentina to Chile, which is Naphtali or Naphtali. And then you see Colombia to Uruguay, which is the southern part of Brazil, Asher, and also today as so-called Mexico, they call it Mexico, or what you call Hispanic or Mexican peoples. The Mexicans today, according to the 12 tribes, biblical historical, they would be called Issacharites. So you say, look at that Mexican over there. No, they didn't say that like that in the Bible. They said, look at that Issacharite. They didn't, oh, look at that Negro over there, that black man. No, they said, look at that Jew. Look at it. You get what I'm saying? Look at that West Indian or that Jamaican. No, they said Benjamin. They didn't say Haitian. They said Levi. So these are the names that we have totally forgotten. But it's the reason why we have forgotten this information is because we as the people did something wrong. Now, you don't supposed to, what this information that I'm giving you, you don't supposed to know this, that the names that we are called, these are proverbs and bywords. We shouldn't be called these names. We should be called our biblical names. But nobody knows. How can the blind lead the blind? Nobody knows. So, hey man, that's a black guy. That's not a black guy. First and foremost, we're not even black. Look at your skin. We different shades of brown. So you can't say that we are black people. This is black. Black is a color. It's not a nation. You can't define my nationality by a color. So if you say, oh, I'm a black guy, you can't define my nationality by a color. You know, we say white people. There's no white person the color of this right here. You get what I'm saying? So who are they? What's the biblical names for the nationalities of today? That's what I'm trying to explain. So I went over the 12 tribes. So basically, you can sum the whole 12 tribes up as blacks, Hispanics, and what you call Native Americans. Blacks, Hispanic, the people of Negro and Indian descent will make up the 12 tribes of Israel. I went over the 12 tribes, which is number 1, which is Israel. Sometime in the Bible, it won't say Israel. Sometime it'll say Jacob. So when you're reading the Bible, don't get it confused. You know, when it says Jacob here and it says it's the same thing, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel. Because Jacob had an encounterment and he prevailed over an angel he fought. and his name was changed from Jacob to Israel. Now, Israel in Hebrew is Yasha'Allah, which means prince of the powers, because Jacob became a prince of the powers after he had his encounter with the angel. God told him his name would no longer be called Jacob anymore, but his name would be called Israel. And Israel had 12 sons, right? And these makes up the Israelites. So I'm just breaking it down in the Bible, because I'm moving a little bit fast, because I have a whole lot to cover. So this man Jacob, which his name was changed, from Jacob to Israel. He had 12 sons. His 12 sons are the 12 patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel. And we all are part of these 12 tribes. But a lot of people don't know that Israel, 12 tribes. Number one, these are the people that God had elected and he called, according to the Bible. When God gave his laws, statutes, and commandments, he didn't give them to everybody. You understand? I think that's a misunderstanding too. People think that when God came on the scene to give his laws and his commandments, people say, well, God, what are the laws of God? And in fact, it's 613 commandments in the Bible. Now, we don't have to keep all these commandments because the Levitical priesthood, that's been wavered out. Ever since Christ came, he basically cut off the whole Levitical priesthood. Before Christ came, you had to do animal sacrifice and stuff like that to atone for your sins. You see what I'm saying? So after Christ came, he basically kind of ushered out the whole Levitical priesthood system. So all the 613 laws in the Bible, you don't have to keep now that Christ has come. You see what I'm saying? But before Christ came, God gave 613 laws to a specific group of people. These are called the Israelites. Now, if you're not an Israelite, God didn't give you his laws. He didn't give you his commandments. He didn't give you nothing to go by. The people that are not Israelites are called heathens. So when you see heathens down here, in the red box, these are people that was not called God's special people or his children. These will be known as heathens, or the Bible sometimes may refer to them as Gentiles. The Gentiles was not called by God. They was not given any laws, statutes, and commandments. Only the Israelites was. Only the Israelites. And it's to this day, this is how deep this goes. Listen, it's not a coincidence why in high school, what's the highest grade in high school? It's 12, just like it's 12 tribes of Israel. How many months in a year? It's 12, just like it's the 12 tribes of Israel. Look on your clock. It ranges from numbers all the way up. 12 is the highest number on your clock again. In a dozen, it's 12. In your body, you have 12 joints. It's 12 constellations, the 12 zodiacs. The 12 is a spiritual significant number because it points to the chosen people that God has ordained and called. Or we can't find them today in the earth, or they no longer exist. So where a lot of people have a tendency of believing is, oh, God's chosen people are gone. They are no longer around. No, they're not gone. Like I said, you just don't have the royal information on who these people are because they've been buried and hidden because we've been given other names. So now let's go to the heathens or the Gentiles. Now you see where it says what we call white people or Caucasian people. These are not a white person or Caucasian person. That's not their original name according to the Bible. So you might say this white man, this white woman. No, that's not what the Bible referred to them as. The Bible refers to the Caucasian race, or what you call Europeans, as Edomites. So when you read the Bible, it's this guy named Edom. In fact, Edom was Jacob's brother in the Bible. So when you read about Edom, you're reading about white people in the Bible. You're not going to open the Bible and it says white, Caucasian. You get what I'm saying? It's not going to say that. You got to know the ancient biblical names in order to refer to the people of today. So when you're reading anything about Edom in the Bible, you're reading about white people. Read that.
The Negro.
The what?
The Negro.
That's not who we call. What Negro means, it's a Portuguese word. Negro means black. Even the Hispanics would tell you that. If you want to say black in Spanish, you say negro. That's not who we are. You can't determine my nationality by a color, which I'm not even black. You see what I'm saying? But they say, oh, you're a Negro. No, I'm not a Negro. That's a derogatory term that they've been calling us. We got to stop accepting that. We're not Negroes. We're not Negroes. Who are we? I'm going to explain. So the history of the quote-unquote Negro, what it says?
Our history lines up perfectly with the Bible.
It said, who history?
Our history.
The Negro history, it says, does what?
Lines up perfectly with the Bible.
So guess what? The greatest history book of all time is this right here. This is the greatest history book. This is your history book. It says it lines up perfectly with the so-called Negroes. I will explain. Read on.
The Most High chose our fathers and made covenant with their seed.
So the Most High chose our people and made a covenant with them, which is in the Bible known as the Israelites. Go ahead.
We are here because of transgression of the law.
How did we get to America?
The transgression of the covenant.
How did slaves get to America?
The transgression of the covenant.
Because how did black people get to America? We didn't get here by airplane. We didn't walk over here. We already know if you go back to 1619, they brought 30 slaves on this ship, the first slave ship to enslave black people and bring them over here as slaves in 1619. It was a slave boat by the name of Good Ship Jesus. This what this ship was called. It was called the Good Ship Jesus. They put 30 slaves, what they would say, quote unquote, black people, on that ship in the year 1619 and brought them to Jamestown, Virginia, over here to the United States of America. So, why was slaves being shipped from the Western Hemisphere, from the Eastern Hemisphere to the Western Hemisphere? Why was our people being shipped as merchandise? This is called a transatlantic slave. Why did they put us on the boat as slaves and ship us over here and use us for merchandise? Why is this going on? How did black people get to America? They got here through slave boats. Your ancestors came on slave boats. This is how they got here. So, why did slavery happen to your ancestors? Your ancestors broke the covenant of God. Your ancestors didn't do what God prescribed of them to do. And this is why we over here. We never supposed to be over here. But our enemies brought us here for the transgression of the covenant.
Ezekiel chapter 39 and verse 22.
Now this is Ezekiel chapter 39, verse 22. Read this.
So the house of Israel shall know that I am the Lord their God.
It say the house of Israel, so what?
Shall know that I am the Lord their God.
Now let's see what God did to the house of Israel. Go ahead.
From that day and forward. And verse 23. And the heathen shall know.
And the heathen shall know, the people that are not Israelites, go ahead.
That the house of Israel went into captivity.
The house of Israel did what?
Went into captivity.
The house of Israel went into captivity. The house of Israel, they went into captivity. Okay, now let me show you the poster because a picture speaks 1,000 words. So all this stuff, I know this right here can be pretty graphic, ain't too graphic. You see all this stuff, what happened to us? The lynchings, the castratings, the beatings, the burnings, the segregation, all this type of stuff. This is what our forefathers, this is what we went through. Now, why did this happen to us? What it said in Ezekiel 39:22.
Verse 23. And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity for their iniquity.
It say the house of Israel went into captivity. Captivity is slavery. So what it's saying is the house of Israel, God's chosen people, they went into captivity because they broke the commandments of God. See, this would have never happened to us if we would have kept the commandments. You see what I'm saying? So when you wrap your head around, okay, why did all this happen? He's giving you the biblical description on why this happened. He said the house of Israel, they went into captivity for what?
For their iniquity.
For their iniquity, go ahead.
Because they trespassed against me.
Because they did what?
They trespassed against
me. Because they trespassed against me. So God got ticked off with his people. And he said, you know what? They don't want to do nothing I've told them to do because God gave us commandments to keep. God told the Israelites, you don't want to keep my commandments? I'm going to give you into the hand of your enemies. I'm going to sell you a slave. This is God. This is not the devil. Once again, like I said, this is the truth I'm telling you. This is not Satan doing this. God himself, according to the Bible, God said he gave his children. He said he did it. Read it again. Read it again.
And the heathen shall know that the house of Israel went into captivity.
Read it out. Go ahead.
For their iniquity. Because they trespassed against me. They
didn't want to listen to his commandments. Go ahead.
Therefore hid I my face from them.
God said he hid his face from us. Go ahead.
And gave them into the hand of their enemies.
God said he did what?
And gave them into the hand of their enemies.
See, God say Satan didn't do this. God say I gave them into the hands of their enemies. So when our people was going through all of this stuff, God say he did that. He gave us into the hand of our enemies. He's the reason why we've been segregated. He's the reason why all this segregation, this lynching, and this beating, and all this stuff happened to us. He's not the reason, but we the reason because we broke the commandments, so God allowed this to happen to us. So when he said he gave us into the hand of our enemies, that's what he did for breaking the commandments. How many years did the Egyptians have Israel before Moses delivered Israel from out of Egypt? How many years that the Egyptians enslaved them? The Bible says 430 years Israel was in Egypt as slaves. And then Moses and his brother came and delivered Israel. Y'all know the story. They went through the Red Sea into the Promised Land. So Israel was in the Egyptian captivity for 430 years. When Israel got out of Egypt and they went into the land of Canaan, they went to breaking God's commandments again. You know what God did? He said, this time I'm going to send the Assyrians on you. They went to breaking God's commandments again. Then he sent the Babylonians on them. They went to breaking God's commandments again. He sent the Persians on them. They broke God's commandments again. He sent the Greeks on them. They broke God's commandments again. He sent the Romans on them. That's during the time of Jesus. When Jesus was walking this earth, he was on the Roman Empire. The Israelites was under Roman rule. He sent the Romans on them. And like the pastor was saying earlier, when Jesus wept over Jerusalem, he was weeping because the Romans was coming in to destroy Jerusalem. Now, if they would have been obedient and kept God's commandments, then Jerusalem would have never been destroyed. But since Israel always broke God's commandments, he have always allowed another specific people to punish them. So don't think when God punishes you, don't think he directly do it himself. No, he already got his tools. He already got these nations. And whatever nation he'll appoint to send on you, that's literally what happens.